You know what the biggest problem is today? Everyone's talking. Talking about what they want, talking about their goals, talking about the life they wish they had. But let me ask you this, when was the last time talking alone got you anywhere? Doesn't, because talking doesn't move the needle. Work does. Let's get brutally honest about something. People love to talk about their dreams. They'll sit around a dinner table or they'll go on social media and they'll tell you about their big plans. They'll say things like, one day I'm going to start my own business, or I'm going to get in shape this year, or my personal favorite, when the timing's right, I'll finally go after what I really want. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because everybody's got a someday. Everybody's got this vision of a future version of themselves who's smarter, stronger, more disciplined, more successful. And you know what? That version of you doesn't exist until you make it real. You can talk about it until your voice runs out, but if you don't take action, nothing changes. Here's the ugly truth. Talking about your dreams actually tricks your brain. When you tell someone, I'm going to write a book, or I'm starting a business soon, your brain gets a little hit of dopamine. It feels like you've done something just by saying it out loud. You get this tiny rush of pride, like you're already making progress. But you're not. You're just wasting energy. You're fooling yourself. And that's why so many people get stuck in this endless loop of saying what they're about to do, but never actually doing it. Think about the last time you said you were going to make a change. Maybe you told yourself you'd wake up early and go for a run. Maybe you swore you'd finally launch that side hustle you keep daydreaming about. Maybe you promised you'd get serious about your studies or your career or your relationships. Did you follow through, or did you let the conversation replace the commitment? Talking is easy. Talking doesn't cost you anything. Action, on the other hand, is hard. Action demands energy, focus, and consistency. Action means you're going to be uncomfortable, and let's face it, most people don't want that. They'd rather keep the dream alive by talking about it instead of risking failure by trying. But here's the thing, every time you say, one day, you're giving yourself permission to stay the same. You're putting your dream on a shelf and telling yourself you get to it later. And do you know what later turns into? Later turns into never. I want you to picture this for a second. Imagine standing in front of a mirror 10 years from now. 10 years. And that person staring back at you looks exactly the same as you do right now. Same routine, same job, same habits, same frustrations, same excuses. And the only reason nothing changed is because you never stopped talking long enough to start doing. How does that feel, honestly? Sit with that for a moment. That's the cost of talking without action. It's a life that never moves forward. Now let's flip it. Imagine if you stopped running your mouth about what you were going to do and actually did it. Imagine if you took just one step today. Not a perfect step, not a huge leap, just one action. Do you know what happens when you take that first action? You build momentum. You prove to yourself that you're capable. And suddenly, the dream isn't just something you talk about, it's something you're building brick by brick. The most successful people you admire, they're not smarter than you. They're not luckier. They just learned to do the work while everyone else was still talking. They stopped wasting breath and started taking steps. That's it. So here's my challenge to you. Shut your mouth and prove it. Don't tell me you're going to start writing. Show me the pages. Don't tell me you're going to get in shape. Show me the sweat. Don't tell me you're going to launch that business. Show me the work you've put in after hours while everyone else is scrolling their phone. Because dreams aren't built in conversation, they're built in action. And let's be clear, this isn't about being perfect. You don't need to have it all figured out before you begin. You don't need to know step 10 before you take step 1. But you do need to start. Stop talking about how someday you'll make it happen. Stop announcing your plans just so people will pat you on the back. That's not progress. That's procrastination in disguise. You've got to make a decision right now. Are you going to keep running your mouth about what you want, or are you going to shut up and start doing the hard work to get it? Because here's the truth no one wants to hear. The world doesn't care about your intentions. The world doesn't care about your dreams until you do something about them. Talking doesn't change your life. Action does. And the longer you keep talking without acting, the more time you're stealing from yourself. So let's end this right now. No more one day. No more, I'm about to. No more someday. You either want it enough to do the work or you don't. And if you do, then shut up and prove it. Everybody wants success. Everybody. If you ask people what they want, they'll tell you things like, I want to be financially free. I want to have a fit body. I want to have a career I love. And they'll say it with so much passion, as if wanting it is enough. But here's the truth: success has nothing to do with wanting. Success is about working. Not once. Not twice. Not when it feels good. But over and over again, consistently, when it's boring, when it's painful, when nobody's watching, and when nobody's clapping. Because let's be real, big words are cheap. Anybody can stand up and say, I'm going to crush it this year. Anybody can post on social media about hustle and grand. But that's just noise. What actually matters is what you do every single day when there's no audience, no spotlight, no recognition. That's where success is born, in the quiet, unglamorous, repetitive work that nobody celebrates. Consistency is the secret ingredient, but it's also the thing people resist the most. Why? Because it's not exciting. It's not shiny. It doesn't give you instant gratification. You go to the gym once, you don't see results. You write one page, you don't have a book. You make one sales call, you don't have a business. And because results don't show up immediately, most people quit. They'd rather talk big than do small. But let me tell you something small: consistent actions are what separate the dreamers from the doers. Success doesn't show up in grand gestures. It's built in the little things you repeat until they stack up into something huge. Think about it like this: one drop of water doesn't carve a canyon. But drip after drip, year after year, that water cuts through solid rock. That's what consistency does. It makes the impossible possible. Let's take an example. Imagine someone who says they want to run a marathon. They go out and run one day. Great. But then they skip the next week, and the week after that, they say, I'll get serious when I have more time. Do you think they're ever going to finish 26 miles? Of course not. Now imagine someone else. They don't run 10 miles on day one. They run 1 mile. That's it. And then the next day, they run another. And the day after that, they run 2. Little by little, step by step, they build endurance, strength, and confidence. 6 months later, who's at the starting line of that marathon? Not the talker, the consistent one. The same principle applies to everything. Want to be successful in business? It's not about having one genius idea. It's about showing up every day, serving customers, solving problems, improving one step at a time. Want to be successful in school? It's not about cramming the night before an exam. It's about studying consistently, reviewing daily, building knowledge brick by brick. Want to transform your health? It's not about starving yourself for a week or buying fancy supplements. It's about making small, consistent choices: drink more water, eat real food, move your body every day. Here's the problem though: we live in a world addicted to instant gratification. People want six-pack abs in 6 days. They want wealth without putting in years of work. They want the highlight reel without the behind the scenes grind. And when it doesn't happen fast enough, they give up and call it impossible. But it's not impossible, it's just that they weren't willing to stay consistent long enough to see the results. Think about the people you admire, the athletes, the entrepreneurs, the creators. What do they all have in common? It's not luck. It's not some magical talent. It's the discipline to show up day after day, especially when it's boring, hard, and unglamorous. they've mastered the art of consistency. They understand that success isn't one big leap. It's thousands of tiny steps in the same direction. And here's the kicker. Consistency is hard because it demands patience. It requires you to keep working when there's no proof yet that it's paying off. It asks you to trust the process long before you see the outcome. That's where most people fail, not because they can't do the work, but because they can't wait long enough for the work to pay off. But if you can stay consistent when it's not exciting, when it feels like nothing's happening, when the results are invisible, that's when you separate yourself from the pack. Because consistency compounds. The little actions that feel pointless in the moment are the ones that change your life over time. So the next time you catch yourself saying, I want this, or I'm going to do that, stop and ask, am I willing to show up every single day for it? Am I willing to do the work when it's hard? Am I willing to keep going when nobody notices? Because that's the price of success. Remember, this empty words are free. Consistent work is expensive, but only one of them will buy you the life you want. So don't just say it, prove it. Be the person who keeps showing up when others quit. Be the person who builds momentum day after day, brick after brick, until success has no choice but to show up. Because success doesn't belong to the loudest voice in the room. It belongs to the most consistent worker. Let's cut to the chase. You know what keeps most people stuck? Excuses. Excuses are the soft pillow you lay your head on when you don't want to face the truth. They sound nice. They make you feel justified, but at the end of the day, they steal your potential. People are experts at excuses. I'm too tired. I don't have time. I don't know where to start. I'll do it when things settle down. Sound familiar? Excuses are easy because they give you an out. They let you off the hook. But here's the thing, your excuses don't move you an inch closer to where you want to go. Only discipline does. Discipline is the opposite of excuses. Discipline is when you do the thing you said you'd do, no matter how you feel about it. And that's the difference between people who dream and people who achieve. Excuses whisper, not today. Discipline says, do it anyway. Think about it. Motivation is temporary. You wake up some days feeling unstoppable, and other days you'd rather pull the covers over your head and disappear. If you rely on motivation alone, you're in trouble, because motivation comes and goes. But discipline is a muscle. You train it, you strengthen it, and when you build it, it carries you through the days when motivation is nowhere to be found. Here's the harsh reality: nobody cares about your excuses. Life doesn't bend for them. You say you don't have time. Guess what? Someone busier than you is making time. You say you don't have money. Someone with less than you is figuring it out. You say you don't know how. Someone else is learning as they go. Excuses might make you feel better, but they don't change the fact that someone else out there is doing the work with less than what you've got. Discipline is louder than excuses because it shows up in results. Excuses are invisible. They leave you with nothing but regret. Discipline leaves you with progress, growth, and pride. You can talk all day about how life got in the way, but discipline doesn't care about your story. It cares about your action. Let me paint you a picture. Two people both want to get fit. Person A sets a goal, buys the gym clothes, and talks about how this is the year they'll get serious. Then Monday comes around and it's raining. I'll go tomorrow, they say. Tomorrow comes and they're sore from sitting all day. I'll start next week. Weeks turn into months. Nothing changes. Now, person B also sets a goal. They don't wait to feel ready. Monday comes, it's raining, and they go anyway. They don't do a perfect workout. They just show up. Tuesday, they're sore, but they show up. Wednesday, they're tired, but they show up. Day after day, excuse after excuse, they choose discipline. And 6 months later, their body is transformed. Not because they had more time, not because they had more energy, but because they refused to let excuses win. That's the power of discipline. It doesn't just change your results, it changes your identity. Every time you choose discipline over excuses, you're proving something to yourself. You're showing yourself that you can be trusted, that your word means something, that you are the kind of person who follows through. And that builds confidence. It builds momentum. It builds a reputation with yourself that says, I can count on me. But let's be real. Discipline is not glamorous. It's not a highlight reel. Nobody claps for you when you wake up at 5 a.m. to grind. Nobody applauds when you choose salad over pizza. Nobody cheers when you sit down and do the boring work. And that's why most people cave to excuses. They want the recognition without the repetition. But the quiet work of discipline, that's where champions are made. You think athletes feel like training every day. No, but they do it anyway. You think entrepreneurs feel like grinding for years before they see payoff. No, but they do it anyway. You think writers, artists, creators feel inspired every time they sit down to work. Absolutely not. But they do it anyway. That's discipline. And let me tell you, discipline pays in ways excuses never can. Excuses pay you in regret. Discipline pays you in freedom. Excuses give you the same life you already have. Discipline builds the life you actually want. Excuses keep you stuck in your comfort zone. Discipline unlocks doors you didn't even know existed. So here's the choice you have to make. Are you going to keep rehearsing your excuses, or are you going to build your discipline? Are you going to keep saying, I can't because, or are you going to start saying, I will, no matter what? Because at the end of the day, nobody's going to remember the reasons you gave for why you couldn't. They're only going to see whether you did or didn't. The scoreboard doesn't care about excuses. It only records results. And those results, they come from discipline, day in, day out, when it's hard, when it's boring, when it's the last thing you feel like doing. Excuses make noise, but discipline speaks louder. It speaks in achievements. It speaks in transformation. It speaks in a life you're proud of. So stop telling the world your reasons and start showing it your results. Stop talking about what you would have done. If only you had the chance. You have the chance right now. It's called today. Discipline is louder than excuses. Make sure that's the voice you're living by. Perfection is the dream killer. It's the excuse that wears a disguise. How many times have you heard yourself say, I'll start when I'm ready, or I just need to get it perfect first? That's perfection talking. And let me tell you, perfection is a lie. Here's the truth: you don't need perfect. You need progress. Because action, even messy, imperfect, flawed action, will always take you further than waiting around for the perfect plan that never comes. Most people waste years of their life trying to get it right before they even begin. They'll research, they'll plan, they'll overthink. They'll wait for the stars to align, the timing to be right, the conditions to be comfortable. And while they're waiting, do you know what's happening? Life is passing them by. Opportunities are passing them by. Meanwhile, someone else who's willing to start messy is already 10 steps ahead. Think about it. Did the Wright brothers wait until they had the perfect design before they tried to fly? No. They built, they tested, they failed, they adjusted over and over again. If they had waited until everything was flawless, we'd still be walking. The same goes for every invention, every business, every success story, you know. It didn't start perfect. It started scrappy. Perfection feels safe because it lets you hide. If you're still planning, you don't have to risk failing. You don't have to face judgment. You don't have to deal with the discomfort of being a beginner. But here's the catch. You also don't get to succeed, because success only comes from action, imperfect action. Let me give you an example. Imagine two writers. Writer A says, I want my book to be perfect. They outline, they take notes, they obsess over details. But because they want perfection, they never finish a single page. Writer B says, I'm going to write every day, even if it's awful. Day after day, they write. Most of it isn't good. But slowly, through practice, they get better. A year later, Writer B has a finished book. Writer A has nothing but an empty notebook and a head full of excuses. Who wins? The one who acted, always. Here's why action beats perfection action teaches you. You can't learn how to swim by reading about it. You have to jump in the water. You can't learn how to run a business by sketching ideas forever. You have to launch something, even if it flops. Every step you take, even if it's wrong, gives you feedback. That feedback makes you better. Perfection, on the other hand, gives you nothing but paralysis. I get it. You don't want to fail. Nobody does. But failure isn't the enemy. Doing nothing is. Failure means you tried. Failure means you're in the game. Failure means you're moving forward. And here's the beautiful part. Every failure carries a lesson. Every stumble gives you data. And those lessons, they're worth more than any perfect plan. Think about your own life. How many things have you put off because you were waiting for the perfect time? How many dreams are gathering dust because you're scared to start? The truth is, there is no perfect time. The perfect time is a myth. The only real time you have is now, and the only way to figure it out is to take action. Here's something powerful. When you start, you create momentum. Action fuels more action. You might not know the whole path, but the first step reveals the second. And the second reveals the third. But if you sit around waiting for the perfect step 10, you'll never even take step 1. Let me ask you this. Would you rather be someone who tried and learned, or someone who sat on the sidelines waiting for perfection that never came? Be honest. Because at the end of your life, you're not going to regret the imperfect things you tried. You're going to regret the things you were too afraid to start. And let's be clear, this doesn't mean recklessness. This doesn't mean throwing your hands in the air and saying, I don't care. It means you start with what you have, where you are, and you learn as you go. It means you don't let the fear of imperfection hold you hostage. Action will always beat perfection because action compounds. One imperfect workout is better than a perfect plan to get fit that never happens. One rough draft is better than the perfect book idea stuck in your head. One small step toward your business is better than waiting for the flawless business plan, because progress beats potential every single time. So the next time you catch yourself saying, I'll start when it's perfect, I want you to stop and flip the script. Tell yourself, I'll start now and I'll perfect it later. That's how real growth works. You act, you adapt, you improve, but you have to start. Perfection doesn't change your life. Action does. So stop hiding behind ready. Stop waiting for the ideal conditions. Stop letting fear disguise itself as perfectionism. Take the shot. Write the page, make the call, launch the thing. Because even if it's messy, even if it's imperfect, it's movement. And movement beats stagnation every single time. Action is the proof. Action is the teacher. Action is the difference between wishing and winning. So don't aim for perfect. Aim for done. Aim for better. Aim for progress. Because done today is always worth more than perfect tomorrow. Momentum. That's the game changer. You've felt it before. That sense that once you get moving, everything feels easier, everything flows, and progress comes naturally. But here's the thing, most people miss momentum. It doesn't come from talking. It doesn't come from planning. It doesn't come from waiting for the perfect mood. Momentum only shows up when you take action. Period. Think about a car at a dead stop. You can sit in the driver's seat all day, telling yourself, I'm going to drive. I'm going to go places. But until you turn the key and press the gas, nothing happens. The car stays still. That's what life is like. You can talk about your goals until you're blue in the face, but until you put your foot on the gas, until you actually do something, you're going nowhere. Here's the powerful part. The hardest step is the first one. It's pushing against that initial resistance. Once you break through it, once you take that first imperfect action, momentum starts to build. And momentum is magic. It carries you forward. It makes the next step easier, and the one after that easier still. Suddenly, the mountain you thought was impossible to climb doesn't feel so heavy anymore. Most people never experience momentum because they never start. They're trapped in paralysis by analysis, overthinking every move, waiting for certainty, waiting to feel ready. But here's the truth: you don't get momentum from thinking. You get it from moving. Start where you are, with what you have, and let the act of doing create the energy you've been missing. I'll give you an example. Let's say you want to get healthier. The thought of changing your entire lifestyle feels overwhelming. So what do most people do? They talk about it, they make plans. They say, next month, I'll start fresh. But nothing changes. Now imagine you say, forget the grand plan, I'm just gonna walk around the block today. That's it, simple. You walk once, and the next day you walk again. Suddenly, it doesn't feel so overwhelming. You've got momentum. And from walking, maybe you jog. From jogging, maybe you hit the gym. From the gym, maybe you overhaul your diet. One small action created a ripple effect that talking alone never could. Momentum is powerful because it creates belief. When you act, you give yourself evidence that you're capable. That evidence builds confidence, and confidence fuels more action. That's the cycle. Action, momentum, confidence. More action. It's unstoppable once you start. But here's the catch: momentum doesn't wait for you. You have to create it. And every day you delay, every time you talk instead of do, you kill the chance to build it. The longer you stay still, the heavier the resistance becomes. That's why starting is so important. Even the smallest step breaks inertia. Think about riding a bike. At first, it wobbles, it's shaky, it's awkward. But once the wheels start spinning, it stabilizes. You don't have to fight as hard to keep it upright. That's momentum. Life works the same way. The beginning feels tough, but once you get rolling, things smooth out. This is why the advice, just start, is so powerful. It's not about doing everything at once. It's about cracking open the door, taking the first step, and letting momentum do the heavy lifting after that. Don't underestimate the compound effect of tiny actions, because once you're moving, even slowly, you're already ahead of the millions of people still sitting on the sidelines talking. And let's get real, talking without action isn't harmless. It's dangerous. Because the more you talk about something without doing it, the more you train yourself to believe that talk is enough. You create a false sense of progress. That kills momentum before it even has a chance to start. Momentum is fragile in the beginning. You can lose it quickly if you stop showing up. That's why consistency matters. The more you feed it, the stronger it grows. The stronger it grows, the harder it becomes to stop. Imagine rolling a snowball down a hill. At first, it's tiny. You've got to push it yourself. But as it rolls, it gathers more snow. It gets bigger. It moves faster. Soon, it's unstoppable. That's your dream when you take action. That's your life when you build momentum. So let me ask you, what's the one thing you keep talking about? The one thing you've been postponing, planning, overthinking. What if you stopped talking for just one day and actually did something about it? What if you replaced someday with today? That's all it takes to spark momentum, one small action. Don't underestimate the power of now. You don't need the whole staircase, you just need the first step. Once you take it, the path starts to reveal itself. But you've got to move. Momentum is waiting for you. It's waiting on the other side of silence. The moment you shut your mouth, stop explaining, stop excusing, and actually do the work, that's when momentum shows up. And when momentum is on your side, you become unstoppable. So stop waiting. Stop talking. Start doing. Because the second you do, everything changes.